Welcome to Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Bobbi Pominville, and I'm your reporter on the arts. I have not seen you, my audience, for a long time, and I'm delighted to be back. I'm in the studio, but I am doing virtual interviews. Now they're new for me, so hopefully I'll get through it and I'll do a good job for you. This one today is about music. You know it's my favorite subject, and it's vocal music. And I want to welcome to the show Stephen Dahle. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. And you are now a middle school vocal music director. You've had a couple jobs. Now, I remember when you were doing instrumentals in Hudson, but this is really even closer to what I used to do. So I love to ask you about all this.
Yeah.
But let's go back. Could you tell me about your educational background prior to teaching and your degree at Luther College?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was interested in music probably from the day I was born. You know, and a lot of people do know my parents, Tom and
I
Carol.
actually knew you that day.
Yeah. Born into a family with two music teachers.
Yes.
So instantly interested in music. I think my parents thought I was going to be an athlete at one point, and I got bored playing sports. I just wanted to do music. So I started violin at age 4 and piano a few years after that. And then I was in choir at Hudson Middle School with the greatest choir teacher in the world. And then I picked up band in 7th grade, percussion, and things just kind of went from there. I had a great time at Hudson Middle, and then at Hudson High School, I had some of the best music teachers ever who continued my passion for music and really enjoying it and performing it. So I pretty much knew when I graduated from high school that music was going to be some part of my career choice. And since both of my parents were teachers, I thought, this is really fun. And I did all the behind scenes stuff with my mom at her concerts and behind the scenes stuff with my dad at his concerts, like at the Phipps Center. So I just, education seemed the right field to go. So graduated from Hudson in 2009. And I went to Luther College, imagining myself being a high school choir teacher. I thought that was going to be my route. And then after a few years, like I was taking private voice lessons and violin lessons, and I was playing piano. And one day I just kind of thought, why am I not also pursuing band and orchestra? Because I do percussion and violin. So I changed my major. I didn't change it, I added on to it a little bit later. And I was a little late to getting on the wagon here for being an instrumental major. It was my junior year. I college, so I had lots of extra classes to take to get caught up. I still graduated on time, but then when I graduated from Luther College, I had a major in music for band, choir, and orchestra education, and then general music grades K through 12, plus a minor in education. So I thought it was just going to be choir, and it turned into pretty much, if it's a music class, I can teach it, which made me really marketable. I was in choirs at Luther. I was in one of the orchestras. I was in the world famous, as they call it, Luther College concert band for 3.5 years. So it was all music all the time. It was, I was doing what I love to do. And now being a teacher, I'm still doing what I love to do, but I'm kind of sharing that passion and excitement with other people who maybe don't know if this is going to be their thing, or maybe it's just something they like to do on the side. It doesn't feel like work when you show up to a job to make music. I mean, there's some things that are like work, answering emails and phone calls, but for the most part, I just show up, I sing, I make music with my kids, and we call it a day. It's pretty awesome.
A lot of that sounds like me. I don't want to bore you, but it was 3rd grade where I decided I'm going to be a music teacher.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and here's the sad thing. I didn't have a music teacher until 6th grade.
Oh.
It was such a small town in North Dakota. They do now. They do now.
Good for them.
But
they better.
I was playing piano. Eventually I took voice. And then when I got to the high school, like you, I took band. I loved
Hmm.
alto saxophone, and playing that was fun. So, but you know what? Here's where I really admire you. You are fulfilling your dream. And you're also doing violin, which is something I tried for half a year and I gave it up. So
It's
I admire you very, very much for
oh,
that.
thank you.
And you know, I know how difficult it is.
It's tough. I
It's
remember
not easy to play a stringed instrument.
it's not. I didn't like practicing. And, with my parents, for who they are, we're very, you're going to practice and you're going to like
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Obviously, they didn't use those words. But I remember there were so many times I wanted to quit because I hated practicing. I was like, why am I not getting better? And my mom loves to tell the story of one time I think she was just tired of my whining, and I asked her, when can I quit? And she said, when you turn 18, moving on. And that answer just kind of made me stop complaining. And obviously when I turned 18, I was like, well, I've been playing this for like 14 years. Why would I stop? So
And because you were at such a level then
mhm.
that you wouldn't want to stop.
Oh
I mean, you
no.
were enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah. I mean,
So that's just a great story.
I never thought I would, make a career out of playing piano and playing violin. And sure, I
Oh,
thought, okay, this is fun. And sometimes people ask me to play for things. But I mean, if you can't play piano, how successful of a choir teacher can you be? I mean, you can get around without playing piano, but it's helpful when you can just sight read anything. And before I taught here at New Richmond, I did orchestra in Hudson for 2 years, and that
yeah.
was, that spun off of me knowing how to play violin. So it's
Yes.
just incredible.
Yes.
Never would have thought.
No, but really, I do believe that a person who is teaching like you has to have some skill level yourself.
Hmm.
And obviously you have it. Now, I've known other people that haven't been able to play piano, and the kids get bored because they can't hear the accompaniment or the other part of it.
It can be challenging, and I don't think I think someone who can't or doesn't play piano well doesn't mean they're going to be a bad educator, but they have to be more creative and go a little bit more outside the realm of, let me play this and let's sing along. I mean, you can do guitar, you can do ARP instruments, you can do so many other things,
Oh, I
but
agree.
piano, it's such a staple in any music classroom, whether it's ensemble or exploratory or specialist.
Oh, yeah, it's a gift, and
Hmm.
it's nice to be at that level you're at because you could sit down and sight read an accompaniment.
It's pretty fun.
It is fun. It really is
I
fun.
had a few moments this past school year where students, I mean, they knew I could play piano, but they didn't really understood what that meant for them until some of them would bring down music that they printed online, and they'd put this in front of me and say, can you play this right now? I want to sing this song. And
Oh,
I was like, well, okay, I guess I don't have any students right now, so let's go. And we just have these little breakout music sessions in the choir room. So that was really cool.
yeah. And I did hear a rumor that you were actually doing sectionals at the high school too, because of your talents in playing piano and leading and so on.
Well, I did help a lot with the musical that was back
Yes.
in November. Gosh, that feels like it was a long time ago. But yeah, it was really, I was the piano player in the pit orchestra. And it was really helpful for Jody Mealy, who's the high school choir teacher, for her to take whatever section and I'll take the other section during even a choreography rehearsal, just to have two musicians there that could help lead and pull stuff together. So that was
Right.
awesome.
That is so neat that you're
Hmm.
that talented. In fact, I do take just a little bit of pride in knowing you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, now you are, of course, the vocal music director at the New Richmond Middle School.
Hmm.
And I want to know, it's been a long time for me. So, what are your responsibilities?
Oh, there's a lot of them, and um, it's hard for me to separate kind of what is my actual job title versus what I just do because I think it needs to be done. But if you were looking at my job description, there are there's 3 choirs at New Richmond Middle School that are part of the actual school day. There's the 6th grade choir, 7th grade, and 8th grade, and they're actually split up into 2 sections. So I see them every other day, and when it gets close to concert time, we combine and we get them on stage. There's about 360 students that are in those choirs. So there's, that's a lot to handle sometimes, especially when
Yes.
we combine. My 7th and 8th graders also get small group voice lessons. Typically it's about 6 to 8 students. I see them once a week, hopefully, for about 15 minutes, and we maybe go over something that they're struggling with in the music. Or if I think I always ask them, is there something that they want to work on first? Unless, like they're really struggling, then I'll just kind of say, this is what we're going to work on. But, when you have a whole choir of 100 or 140, 6th grade choir is at 140. When you have them all at the same time, you can't individualize, okay, who's out of tune, what's happening. You can say broad brushstroke comments to the ensemble, and sometimes they'll fix the problem. But in those small group choir lessons that we have, that's really when I get a pinpoint who might need more assistance with something, who is not having good technique on pronouncing these vowels, who is breathing with a really shallow breath support, who doesn't know their part. I mean, sometimes in lessons, it might even be a few weeks before the concert, some student says, I don't know my part here. And part of me is like, where have you been the past 3 months? But in those lessons, that's when they get to ask Dahle, I'm really struggling with this. Can you help me? And the answer is, of course. And they get it done just fine. And in those lessons, that's really the time when I get to meet the students. Core teachers, I think one of the benefits over my position with them is they get to know the students in a smaller classroom setting, whether it's handing back homework or asking questions or just interacting. In my large ensembles, it's really hard to interact with a group that size and get to know them. But when I have them as 7th or 8th graders and I get them in a small group of 6 to 8 students, that's when I really start connecting with them. So that's essentially my choral teaching duties. The 8th graders, band, choir, and orchestra perform at our Veterans Day program, which is absolutely massive. We have some of the best 8th grade US history teachers in the world that put together a huge program for the public. All the students are invited down, all the ensembles perform. We have a guest speaker. It's really very cool. So we perform at Veterans Day. There's 3 other choir concerts: our December winter holiday concert, the spring concert, which is March, and this year was actually in late February, but I still call it the spring concert. And then in May we do the Pops concert, and I can go into more detail about that one, but that's the fun one, as I like to say. But we do that. That's really what my responsibilities are on paper. But I'm also really involved at the high school auditorium. I'm the assistant manager for anything technical wise. For the musical, I was the lighting and sound designer for that. So it was really fun to get to work with the light board and we brought in some extra help from the Twin Cities to help with that. And then I'm also the co-director of the high school marching band for New Richmond. So I get to work alongside with Mr. Matt Mealy. And unfortunately, we're not doing that right now because of the pandemic. But that has just been such a privilege to get to work with him. He is a fantastic musician, one of the best. And obviously my expertise is not in band performance, but when it comes to marching style, that is where I can kind of collaborate a lot with him and getting his band up to where we want them. And it's just been so much fun. So I mean, it's been a busy few years that I've been in New Richmond, for sure.
It seems like the perfect fit for you.
It's hard for me to sit still, so I
And
kind of do like this.
You're doing everything you like to do, and
Mhm.
you're not a teacher who's just like saying, oh, I'm teaching history now, I'll go home.
I mean,
So you're so involved in so many facets of everything.
it feels weird if I get home before 5 p.m. on a school day. That was kind of like, did I forget something? Am I missing something? But you're right, it doesn't feel like work. These are things that I like to do. I get to know the kids. Because of my position, I essentially feel like I teach grades 6 through 12 because I continue on at the high
Right.
school with so many extra things. And that's, I mean, that's just a blast seeing these kids who started as sixth graders now graduating high school that are still as excited about music as they were when they walked into the middle school for the first time. It's really cool.
Well, your numbers are really up. That's
Yeah,
amazing
we've
how many you have in your
thank you.
choirs.
It's a lot to handle. But it's, you know, I think it's really cool for a building the size of our middle school, which is, I think, just over 830 last I checked. But to have about 360 in choir, it's really, really cool. And there's students who are in there that love singing, love music, take advantage of every opportunity they can. There's some who are there like, I'm here because, you know, I like Mr. Dahle. I like the people in here, but maybe, you know, maybe they're not going to continue music at the high school. They should, maybe they won't. And, you know, there's a few kids who are in there because mom or dad are forcing them to be in choir, which is fine. And usually I don't know who those students are because I think once they realize all they have to do is participate and have fun, which is, I mean,
Really?
that's kind of what music class is for to me. I think, you
Yeah.
know, everyone's having fun. We're learning, we're being good musicians, but a lot of what my class is kind of that social aspect of, you know, creating connections with the people around you and doing something as a huge team that they all enjoy doing.
That's great. You've done all the right answers with me, so we'll just have to go on.
Okay.
Now I wanted to talk to you about virtual teaching because I heard that
Oof.
they were trying to do it in the spring.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how that would work with music and vocal music. So how does that work?
I'll dive into this with a quick answer. Not well.
Yeah.
It does. It did not go well. Oh, excuse me. We you know, I had every intention of, and I think everyone was very optimistic when they said, "Oh yeah, we're only going to be closed until, you know, April whatever," and then okay, now May something. And so I had this intention of, if I put all of the recordings of all of the songs we're doing at our Pops concert, you know, just like kids, if we need to not do any harmonies, but just sing through these melodies and have fun at the concert, maybe we could do that. And then school was closed indefinitely, so that just kind of out the window.
Yeah.
I did a few private voice lessons over Zoom or Google Meet, just, well, I had some kids who are auditioning for honors programs, but that was really difficult in itself because, you know, there's a bit of a sound delay. So when I would be playing piano for them and they're singing, I'm trying not to listen to them in the sense that if I do, then I sound wrong or they sound wrong. But then I do have to listen to them because obviously that's my job to teach them. What we found out worked best was I would record the piano part and send it to them so then they could listen to it and perform on their end. But then that was still really difficult because if they messed up on something, I couldn't stop and help them. They'd have to figure out where they are on the track that I recorded. So really what I did for my choir classes was I gave my kids homework probably for the first time in a long time, because usually practicing is a student's homework. But with the concert out the window, I was like, what are we gonna do? So on their Google Classroom, I created weekly opinion-based questions that were centered around music. And like I said before, I feel like my class is really a social thing where the students get to know each other, I get to know them, and our administration was really pushing more than anything, more than even academic responsibility, I think, but keeping those connections with our students, because so many of them come to our building knowing it's a safe place to be. They're surrounded by people who care about them. Unfortunately, our school sometimes is the safe place for students compared to their homes. That's not the case for all of them, certainly, but students like coming to our school because of all the amazing teachers and other people there. So I wanted to keep those connections with students. So I would ask them questions. This one's pretty basic, but I ask, what is your favorite song of all time and why? Interestingly enough, I got a lot of Dolly Parton songs for that one,
Really?
like a lot, which great. If
Wow.
you don't like Dolly Parton, I mean, get out.
Yeah.
but it was very cool. A lot of 80s music,
Wow.
a lot of Bon Jovi too. And
Oh,
I'm sure it's because their parents, grew up with that and are listening to it, so their kids are liking it too. So that answer, that was kind of surprising. I thought that was very cool. Not as much rap music as I was expecting. There was some.
oh yes.
I'd also asked them questions. I said, if there was a song you could get rid of, like erase from Earth and human history, what would it be? And I said, if you really don't feel mean, if you don't feel compelled to destroy a culture, you can say, I don't know, I don't have an answer. I got a lot of responses saying they wanted any song by One Direction, that boy band, they wanted that
Oh,
erased. And it's like, wow, okay. Baby Shark, also they wanted erased from the history of Earth. I was like, well, okay, that's fine too. Um, I'd ask some other questions, like some, so those are kind of easy ones to think about.
yeah.
But I'd also ask, like, I tell them what a soundtrack is to a movie, and how, imagine a movie like Titanic or Star Wars or Harry Potter that didn't have music. How boring that would be. So I said, is there a movie or a musical or even a TV show that you like because of the music? A lot of kids wrote in Jurassic Park as being one of their favorite movies for the
Oh,
music. So,
yeah.
I'd ask them questions like that. And
Yeah.
I never wanted the students to feel overwhelmed, because, even me just teaching choir virtually, spending so much time in front of a computer screen, I'm just doing my choir classes, but these kids are on the computer now for math, science, social studies,
Oh, right.
English, language arts, literature, Phi Ed, Tech Ed, Spanish. I just thought, these kids don't need more time in front of the computer. And I was thrilled to keep engaged with them, but
Mhm.
I felt my job was not to bore them. Not that other classes are boring students, but in the grand scheme of things, do we want these students to be falling behind in math? Or, I kind of looked at myself as not being as academically important as other classes. So I took a step back. I really focused more on the connections with students. I actually created a Instagram account. I have my own personal one,
Oh,
but I created a public one that I encouraged my students and anyone to
mhm.
follow. And it didn't even post music things, but I would post like projects I was doing around the house, or things I was cooking, or I turned my whole backyard into a garden, which was a big process to learn. But I would post pictures about it, and then students would, see the pictures and they'd comment, or they'd send me a message asking questions about it. And that was just another way that I really worked to stay connected with the students. And I think through that media outlet, I had quite a few students reach out to me who were maybe going through some difficult things, being at home so much, and maybe issues with parents or siblings. And because of that outlet, they felt they could reach out to me. And then I was able to, put them in touch with the right people, or just be someone to listen to. And that's kind of my job at the middle school too. And I think that's every teacher's job, is to be, that supportive adult for students, hands down.
Well, you sound like a pro middle school teacher already,
Well,
because you know how
well,
to
thank you.
connect with these kids, rather than just saying, "Oh, you have to learn this by such and such day." And no, it's really about getting them on board.
Hmm.
And then you went from there and you asked pretty interesting questions. I mean,
Yeah,
you were really learning about their music tastes a little bit and everything.
it's
And
stuff that I find interesting, and
yeah,
they could see their what their peers would comment. They could see their answers as well. So it's kind of, and some people would say, "Oh no, that song's terrible. How can that be your favorite?" It was never mean or hurtful. But
well,
it was,
right.
creating that camaraderie that we already have in the music department.
Yes. And because a lot of times it's just the one you're familiar with.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you have, younger students like I had a lot of the time, it would always be the Disney movie song,
Mm-hmm.
like Frozen is the big deal.
Yes.
And for you now, that surprised me, because I thought they were going to do a throwback to their more youthful days, like Disney movies.
Mm.
But you got different answers.
I got answers. Some of them I hadn't even heard of.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's really diverse taste in music for all grades.
And yet,
It's cool.
you brought them to a level that you kind of shared with them.
Hmm.
And you went from there. And now I think this is even better for next year. Hopefully you're back teaching and you
Yeah.
could go from there. And you could say, well, remember when you told me you didn't like blah, blah, blah? Well,
Hmm.
why was that? And and then
Well,
you can raise your standards even higher, I think.
I've part of the question of what are your favorite songs of all time, kind of I use that to my advantage in programming for
Oh,
next year's concerts. Okay, maybe
really?
this is, well, I mean, I've got my own ideas,
Yeah, of
and
course you do.
not that I'm handing over the reins to 12-year-olds, but a lot of song suggestions or songs that I program are ones that they want to sing, and
Yeah,
this is for the pops concert, not for
right,
the more serious ones.
right.
But last year, my eighth graders, I mean, we didn't really have a theme for that concert. It was everything. But we started the eighth grade portion of the show singing the theme song to Friends, which was
Oh
fantastic.
my.
We wheeled a couch out on stage. We had kids with umbrellas like they do in
Oh,
the title sequence. And on the background of the back of the sound shell, we had Central Perk projected there. So we did that. And then we went into the song Fishin' in the Dark. And then we did a song from The Greatest Showman. So, those are songs that
wow.
I might not have chosen myself, but they were really interested in them, and I wrote out harmonies for them to make it work, and we had a lot of fun along the way. It was
Right.
good.
That's great. What a wonderful idea. Now, did you miss a lot of concerts and activities
Ugh, but yeah,
because of
well,
the
let me tell you, the list keeps getting longer.
yeah, it does.
Most recently, the Wisconsin School of Music Association honors program, where we go to Madison with 5 or 6 students, eighth graders. I
Oh,
submit.
yeah.
That's been canceled in October, and that stinks because those kids who auditioned had been working really hard on their prepared pieces. And they were going to perform them at solo ensemble, and that festival was canceled for middle and high school. We lost, well, in the entire music department for their May concerts, middle and high school, we lost our band, orchestra, and choir concerts as
Mm.
well. Which really stinks because a lot of those students, whether they're eighth graders, seniors, or just that last concert of the year, it's a really good way to cap
Oh,
off all the achievements that the kids have made and we've made as a program. And the pops concert, my big one this year, we had our theme this year was going to be road trip across the world, which I know there aren't roads that go over oceans, but you have
it's
to
catchy.
suspend belief for
I
a
like
little
it.
bit. But we were going to do my show choir. We have a show choir at the middle school. They were going to do Life is a Highway, Rascal Flats,
Uh-huh.
What a Wonderful World, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. They're all going to be these. Oh, we're going to do Mr. Blue Sky by the Electric Light Orchestra,
Mm,
Africa by Toto. Just any song that had a city or a place or an idea.
yeah.
Those are going to be songs, and the music came in 2 days before we shut down, and that
Oh,
was I mean I had a few eighth graders who were crying. I cried too, just not in front of them. And
yeah.
it's the music is still in their folders, unfortunately. I haven't even bothered to go in because I'm not ready to just. I mean,
Mhm.
I know it's done, but it's really tough. So maybe I can use that music next year. Part of me wants to just file that away and do different programming for next year, but the spring music programs really took a hard hit, and now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
boiling over into middle school and high school marching band.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we can't that had we didn't do anything because we quit teaching in March. We had to be shut down. And in the fall, we usually have different parades and programs that we do with our marching band, and haven't been able to meet. So it's
Mm.
really up in the air right now. And granted, if we are able to go back to teaching face to face in September, that'd be wonderful. And we'll be prepared to hit the ground running because we have to. But you
Right.
have to also think in terms of we lost 3 months of teaching, and now
Yeah.
you go 3 more months of summer. Where we left off in March, where are we going to be when we come back in September in terms of ability to perform.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to sound worse. That's not how that works. But we're
No,
going to have some
but
ground
you've
to catch up.
lost so much.
We did.
And even your camaraderie and like, I love the idea of starting with the friends thing, because that's what choir is.
Yeah.
You do become friends. And even if you're performing, there's something you go through when you're performing that really brings it home, and you've survived something together.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's the way I used to think about it too, was I'd hate to have anybody miss all that.
I think a lot of students, eighth graders or seniors especially, who they have their final performance, and when that's gone, you almost feel incomplete. Like you said, you didn't
Gone.
survive this because you didn't have that capstone performance. And I really, my heart really hurts for those students who have been robbed of this opportunity that has just become such a rite of passage, and they've earned it. That's the thing. And there's no good reason. I mean, well, there's a good reason why it's not happening, but it's not
There's great memories there.
It breaks my heart.
And you missed them.
Yep.
So now I was really happy to hear this. You are the choir director at First Lutheran in Richmond.
I am.
Now tell me about that job.
Well, I kind of started. I got an email from the Pastor Jim Bump, who was at First Lutheran. He sent me an email one day, and it said, I'm Pastor Jim. I heard you're the choir teacher at New Richmond Middle School. We have a choir teacher at our church, but she is looking to just not direct, but be a member of the choir and of the congregation. Would you be willing to come out and talk and see if you're interested in this? And I just said, sure, why not? I grew up going to church choir rehearsals because both my parents are and were,
through it all.
I'm pretty much following in their footsteps right now.
Yes, you are.
So,
It's not all bad now.
No, it's not. It's not. It's a good thing, definitely. Yeah, I went there, and it wasn't so much an interview. I mean, they asked me questions, but it was kind of a roundtable discussion of just who are you and what do you do and are you good? They didn't ask it like that, of course.
I know, but it's a cute one.
But I guess they liked me enough, and I liked them enough, where they said, okay, this is kind of how things go here. And granted, this would have been finishing my second year there. We also closed when the school is closed as well. But I've been there for 2 years now, and it's fantastic. I would joke with them, but sometimes teaching middle schoolers to sing is a little easier than teaching adults to sing. Just
especially if they have habits.
They have habits and opinions, and they sure love sharing them with you. But I mean, sometimes your day at school or work or whatever is just exhausting, and things are terrible, or just something bad happened. But then I go to this Wednesday night choir practice at First Lutheran, and doesn't matter anymore. It's so much fun. It's a great group of people. It's been such a blessing to have another outlet for me for music performance and appreciation, and getting to know more wonderful people. So I haven't really talked about, again, what it's going to look like in the fall. That's when the church choir season starts typically. But I'm excited to go for year number 3. It's been fun.
Good. I found that it was like the frosting on the cake, kind of. They're a whole different entity, but there's more fun there, and there's more things you could enjoy. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Glad you like it. So are you playing in anything, or what other groups are you active in? I know you're a freelancer in a lot of ways, because you're always playing at the FIPS and different things I'm in. So, and I've enjoyed that a lot.
I've aside from I was in the FIPS it feels like it was a long time ago. I was in festival chorus this past year at the FIPS.
You were.
It feels like it was so much.
You were too far down the road from me.
It feels like it was so long ago. I've kind of pulled back a little bit on my involvement in other groups. I've been asked to play at a lot of weddings recently, which has been really cool. It helps that a lot of my coworkers at the middle school are getting married and ask for a musician,
Oh,
which I would
nice.
never say no. Um,
Yes.
but I'm finding I think I'm kind of hitting that point where maybe I'm doing too much with my career and
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
able to do as many other fun things. Not that I
Mm.
don't love what I'm doing at the middle school, but in terms of other things that are just for me, there isn't as much time for that.
Yeah.
Being the church choir director, festival chorus, marching band, musicals, all these
Oh,
other
my.
endeavors are incredibly fulfilling, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I can say no.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but what's happened now at the middle school, let me backpedaling a little bit. In addition to the 3 choirs I have,
Hmm.
there's 6th grade choir club, which is another group that meets outside of school. It's 6th graders only. I have my ensemble singers, which is an audition group of 7th and 8th graders, and they meet before school at 7 a.m. I give them coffee as an incentive. I have my a cappella choir that meets once a week after school. We have our show choir that meets once a week after school. And then during the school day, every other day, I have an 8th grade young men's choir and an 8th grade young women choir that meet. So in addition to my 3 choirs, there's all those extracurricular choirs that get to be a bit much.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Every choir, the students want to be there, and they wanted a show choir, and they wanted this audition group. Like, these aren't me necessarily pushing what I want for them. I'm
Mhm.
thrilled at more opportunities. But then you put all those choirs in, plus the Sing in Wisconsin Music Festival,
Oh,
SCV MEA Festival, WSMA, WCDA. It's kind of turning into my life is becoming school a little bit.
yeah.
So we're gonna have to see how that plays out, because I really haven't been playing violin very much anymore, which is a huge bummer for me because I
Yeah.
love playing it. But
Yeah.
when all said and done, when I get home, the last thing I want to do is, I hate to say it, play more music. I just
Yeah.
usually
You
just
take a
go to
break.
bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
understand,
I'd
but
love
my
to be in more
goodness,
groups, but there's just not much time right now.
that's so much.
It's a lot. It's
I
fun
mean, I
though.
never
I
would
love
have
it.
thought you had a show choir and all that.
I never thought I'd have a show choir either. Um, and when I was at Hudson High School, I was in swing choir.
Yeah.
Probably because I was a tenor, not because of my dancing skills, let me tell you. But you know, and I'm still not the best dancer or
Right.
choreographer. That's how you say that word. But it's been really fun getting input from students who wanted to help create dances for the songs. And at our last concert, I really strive to not have the choreography be something that's like elementary sun and the fun, like really easy hand movements. Like, we did some pretty intense, like getting on the back of someone else and some fancy footwork stuff.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and part of my goal of having that show choir is
Mhm.
New Richmond High School now has a show choir as well. And I wanted to keep that hype going and
Oh, yeah.
continue to grow the numbers at the high school, which they have been growing at the choir program there. So,
Very
kind of,
good.
yeah, it's been pretty cool.
No, that's great. You're doing a good thing to build that up because then a lot of them are gonna go on
Hopefully, they better.
and they'll
If
enjoy
they know
it.
what's good for them, they will. Yeah.
Yes, they certainly should. That is really neat, yeah.
Thank you.
And, I just think you're doing so much, and I'm so impressed. And I just think you found your niche,
Hmm.
and I'm
I'm
really
here.
happy for you
Oh,
because
thank you.
it makes your life so enjoyable when you're doing what you like.
Yeah.
And you're making a difference.
I hope so. I hope it's for
I
the
know
in
you
the
are.
right
I can
direction.
tell by talking to you that you're definitely making a difference. So,
Thank you.
this has been such fun. Before I have you introduce that video clip, I must thank you so much for coming here. Not coming here, but excuse me, I'm still in the virtual thing.
Yeah.
I have to remember that. For taking time today and talking to me, and also because this will be showing in a lot of different places, and
Yeah.
people get ideas, and hopefully they can build off your enthusiasm and know they have to get into a choir.
Oh, they better.
They've
Yeah. No,
got
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad I had that little contact with you. Now what I asked you to do is share a video clip of your choir.
Yes.
So would you like to go ahead and tell the audience that watches this show a lot
Yeah,
what it
absolutely.
will be of, and you know whatever you want to say about your choir? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the video clip that I sent over to you is it was sadly the last time I performed with my 8th grade choir. This was the song is called "Didn't It Rain." It is a piece based on the story of Noah and the Ark. But it's a piece that we performed at contest. I took my 8th graders to the WSMA Large Group Choral Festival, and they got a #1 rating, which is the best you can get for their performance. My 7th graders did too. But in this clip, it is my 8th graders singing "Didn't It Rain?" And what makes me really proud of them in this clip, the piece is not exactly, it's not difficult to sing, but it's not easy in that you can find things to be picky about in terms of their clarity of their consonants. Can you understand everything that they're saying? It becomes a really melodically independent piece. The choir essentially splits into 2 groups, and they are both singing their own thing. And you have to listen to each other, but at the same time not listen so hard you fall into what the other group is singing. So that was challenging for them, and also it becomes such a dynamically demanding piece where essentially I needed them shouting in terms of volume, but not shouting. I needed that good choral space and tone and breath support. And for an 8th grade choir, I think to get where they got to made me really, really proud of them. It's also I think pretty rare as you look at the footage. My 8th grade choir is a 50-50 split of boys and girls. And typically in choir, I would say there's usually more girls than boys in choir.
Yes.
I don't know what happened. Maybe it helps because I am a male music teacher, but it was a 50-50 split. And at
Wow.
in one of our pieces, it actually, not the one, I don't think it Didn't It Rain, but there's another one where it's split into 4-part harmony at the end. And I thought, we can do this. It's
Oh,
easy.
wow.
They're at 14, 13. We can handle this. And we actually, for that concert, I gave them voice parts of soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And typically that's not something I do or would encourage, just because their voices aren't done changing. And to have this idea of, well, I'm always going to be a soprano or I'm always going to be a bass, that's not true. Your voice is always changing, especially in your adolescent years. But I thought, let's do it. Maybe I'll regret this down the road. But they almost got a bigger sense of ownership of being like, yep, I'm in the tenor section. Here we go. We got this. It was there's a lot of pride in having this label that really didn't mean very much to them, but they felt, like they really belonged in the group. So Didn't It Rain? It's a fast piece. It's high energy. Really, really proud of them. They did a great job. And it was the last time I got to see them on stage. So yeah, it means a lot to me.
Well, I will look forward to seeing that myself. And thank you again, Stephen, for coming today. You've shared so much about music and yourself, and I have truly enjoyed this interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
Didn't it rain, children? God's restored this world with heart. Now didn't it rain?